Hello, dear friends. We continue to answer your questions in the group. Today, two representatives of the Interstellar Alliance, Lishioni from the planet Shemor and Mid-Gaskhaus from the planet Essler. As always, I am assisted by my faithful friend and helper Maxim.
Hi everyone, I'm behind the scenes, you can't see me, but I'll try to voice the questions you ask in the group. What do the Shemor and Tashig representatives look like?
The height of representatives of my civilization is from 180 to 240 centimeters. The skin is mostly of blue and blue shades. But on our planet, there are 18 different tribes with different shades of skin from light blue to violet shade, which you call bright purple. Otherwise, the physique and body proportions are similar to Earthlings. Tashig representatives have a height of 110 to 130 on average. Thin, flexible body, large pear-shaped head, two almond-shaped eyes, which are slightly raised with a wide part up to the temples. The nose and mouth are not noticeable. They resemble people of Earth civilizations less than Shemorians. Tashigan skin varies from gray to gray-green, depending on whether they are Tashigans themselves or a member of one of their many colonies in the galaxy.
How many generations of Durals are artificially reproducing?
I have personally known the representative of Daral Kirjaton for a long time. For my personal interest, I have studied the history of Daral. And I can tell you that for the last 5,600 Earth years, the Daral generation has been reproducing through the machine. Considering that the average life expectancy is about 350 Earth years, it is clear that this is tens of generations.
What are feelings? How many of them does a man have? Where do they live in him, and where do they go after the death of the body?
What you call the spirits are included in the inner structure of the spirits. They are in the inner structure of the part of the spirit called the spiritual heart, or in other terminology, the essence. It has nothing to do with the heart as a physical organ. It is the core of spirit itself, its essence, its substance, on which the other two parts of spirit, mind and energy, already depend. After the death of the physical body, the feelings do not go anywhere. They remain in the spirit, and together with it they go to the spiritual world, to the level that it reached during its life in the material world.
What is the definition of the word conscience, and where does it come from?
As I said before, conscience is the name in Russian of that part of the spirit which is connected with contact with the higher self. That is, with that part of its energy, consciousness, subconsciousness, and everything else, which is the image of God, the light of God, within each spirit. Conscience, like intuition, is not directly related to the mind, feelings, or energy. It permeates everything with itself, as light permeates space. Conscience, like light, like love, does not come from anywhere. On the contrary, it is that energy, that consciousness, that will, that mind, which is the reason for the manifestation of all other parts of spirit. So I am talking about that one light that gave birth to all of us. Of course, in your society it often speaks to you not through your inner voice, as we have on Essler, but through the morals of your society, your parents, other sources of authority for you. But this all comes from the fact that you do not practice widespread dissemination of information about contact with that inner light that is within each of you.
It is said that there were 3 moons revolving around the Earth. Is it so? How many years ago? By whom and why were they destroyed?
The history of the solar system, which was given earlier, tells you that before the War of Celebesians with Tumasusians and Barcadians for your planet, the Earth had no natural satellites at all. After the war, when the Earth was moving away from the Sun and even left the ecliptic plane, the powerful ships of your Creator stopped its removal from the Sun with the help of their gravitational fields, and set it on that orbit, gave it that speed of rotation around its axis and around your star, which you see now. And, as the Earth was moving away from the Sun, on its way it captured in its gravitational field that planet that was between the Earth and Mars, the little planet that you now know as the Moon. the moon came about 14 times closer to Earth, and there was a real danger of the two planets colliding. But by the forces of the MC, the orbits of the two celestial bodies were adjusted in the way you see now. It is for this reason that the moon is always turned to the Earth on one side.
Where did the information about 3 moons on Earth come from? Or maybe it is some mythological story, or it is some idea about some civilizations.
There's also information about several suns. Moons, suns are all those objects of the MC, mainly to Masutians. Huge round ships of light, which appeared in the sky in the orbit of the Earth, were actually its satellites, base stations. And naturally, ancient people took them for the moon, for the sun. They were visible very well, because, for example, even what you call Nibiru, this ship is about several hundred kilometers in diameter. It's really a base for many ships and a factory for making robots and many other things.
Interesting. So it is not the planet Nibiru, but there is a ship? Or is there a planet Nibiru?
There was the one that was destroyed near Sirius, from which an asteroid belt was left. By the way, at one of Irina's contacts, Kirshatan took her just to one of such asteroids near Sirius, where to this day there is a Tombshout base, where the remains of the planet are studied.
At whose expense is the budget of the state of your planets replenished?
The budget of our planet is replenished due to coordinated labor of all links of our society. That is, our economy is based on state management of commodity turnover and on conscious, free submission of all citizens of the planet to this management. That is, the basis of our budget is production of those goods which are really needed by the population and sale of these goods for those monetary units which are the unit of labor in this or that sphere.
What are your monetary units? What are they called?
Lampshin.
How many lampshinas does the average Shimorian get?
During the period, which is equal to 3 revolutions of Shimor around itself, about 110 hours on Earth time, 520 lampshin on average.
Midgaskaus. What's your system like?
In general, our system resembles a communal distribution of produced things and objects. That is, the production of our goods is not infinite, as much as the consumer wishes, but by order. If it is necessary to produce some good for which there is a demand in the community, our factory produces it, you might say. Every Islarian has a special device at home, we can call it a computer, which connects him with the general network of producers. It can be used to send a request to this base, what he needs. And on the basis of this data, orders are already formed, what to produce in a given month, more or less.
How do you earn the money to buy these products?
Each town has its own communal government. Essler's communal union generates the money. But we don't have real paper money, we pay with what you'd call chips. We have electronic money. The electronic money is transferred to the account of this or that Eslarian naturally, either by the government, or if it's the IC, for example, by the structures in which the Eslarian works. For a long time we have no real money, which can be produced as material carriers.
How do you trade with other planets? And do you trade with other planets at all?
As a whole, as a civilization, no. But as individuals, we are. There are special converters in the MC, where we can convert our internal Esler currency to intergalactic currency.
Why did aliens create humans on Earth but did not settle on this planet?
Because the planet was first chosen precisely to observe the natural evolution of primates in such conditions of diverse animal life. And then when there was no natural evolution for 2 million years, this planet was chosen to do an experiment to create a hybrid, as you already know, of 3 civilizations and an Earth primate. There are enough planets in the galaxy where any civilization can settle. Many more stars with planets than without.
What was the number of people on the planet at the time of the decision to settle on Venus and Mars?
According to the data of the MC on history, at the moment of the decision to settle on Venus and Mars, there were about 2.5 million people on the Earth.
How many humans have settled on Venus and how many on Mars?
originally settled 20,000 on Venus and 20,000 on Mars about 200,000 years ago.
How was this dispersal supposed to accelerate evolution?
Thus, that the scientists of MS have created a theory that in societies isolated on other planets, social evolution will go another way, and there will be more opportunities to create societies with their own laws, concepts, in which in the future those or other spirits will incarnate. Because different living conditions, different nature, distance from the sun, and everything else, it was believed that it affects civilization.
Who brought Christianity to Russia and why?
If to speak about mass distribution of Christianity, it was done by one of princes of your state in the past, whom you all know, and who is ranked among saints, as equal apostles Vladimir. He is called equal apostle because he as an apostle brought this doctrine to another country. It was his decision, at the moment of acquaintance with Christianity in Constantinople. It has decided that it more answers to the laws which it established in the princedom, more will help to unite Russia under the uniform banner of Jesus Christ than those scattered clans, tribes, and even separate families which were earlier. They often went out from under influence of the prince, as were worshippers of various gods, priests, and all it has been dispersed on various egregores. Therefore, seeing the ideological disagreement in the ranks of his subjects, Slavic tribes, he decided to enter not only because he himself sincerely believed in Christ. How could be sincere at that moment? Because he really had a very complicated life too, and there was a lot in his soul contradictory. He decided that this religion would be good for him and for his family, and for the greater consolidation of his and his son's power on the throne. That was his decision at the time, and it was one of his leading motives.
Why is there a migration of peoples now, and what is happening to Europe?
Often being in contact with representatives of your world, I hear the speech that something terrible is happening to Europe, that it is being invaded by representatives of Asian peoples, that this assimilation will not lead to anything good, and other speeches. I will naturally express my personal attitude to these questions. Exactly the same thing is happening to Europe as it should happen because of the lower birth rate in European countries, and the overestimation of this indicator in Asian countries. Because all of this is happening at a faster rate than it would be if there were not that war in Asia, which was started by your earthly military and political structures, which are influenced mainly by economic programs. In the sense that there are many minerals in the region of the war, and it is the struggle for influence over these regions that is being waged among the leading powers, who are simply, you might say, pitting these nations against each other, vying for influence over them in order to obtain minerals through them. I think that when united, the leading world powers can quickly, within 2 to 3 Earth days, stop the war with terrorists. They can do it by their technical component and human resources. But the whole point is that it is those oligarchic structures of the Western world that turn Islam into that bait for young Islamic fundamentalists, who then make weapons with secretly transferred money, just the same Western oligarchs. And it's all about keeping this region in tension, to compete for influence over the minds of these peoples. As I said, to take possession of what is rightfully theirs, what's under their feet. And that is why the influx of Asiatics into Europe is a natural influx. For they are fleeing from that life, from war, from famine, from disease, from the epidemics which these actions have caused. Naturally, obeying the instinct of self-preservation, they will look for a better place for themselves and their children. In fact, this is an indicator of a deeper problem in your society, namely the disunity of earthlings as nations. If you were united in at least a desire to restore peace to the entire planet, all terrorist groups would be stopped in 24, maximum 48 hours.
According to Andrei Tunyaev, there are many biorobots, chimeras, clones, and hybrids on Earth, and there are practically no people left, created in the image and likeness of God. What do you think about it?
I would like to clarify, from respected Tunyaev, by what signs he determines in whom there is an image of God and who is a biorobot. If Tunyaev or the person who asked the question has this information, I will be glad to familiarize myself with it. By what signs does the respected Mr. Tunyaev determine clones, biorobots, chimeras on the Earth, and separate them from people with the image of God? Does he have an accurate device to establish the quantity or quality of this image in the souls of people? It is impossible to answer this question without knowing what man means by these concepts.
I think what he means is that there is a physical body and no soul in it.
To reason about who has soul and who does not, it is necessary to be God. And not just God, it is necessary to be fully in the light of God. And at the same time, even if you are fully in the light of God, you would never say to someone who is not in God that they are a biorobot. You would just say that he's not at that level yet.
Are there physical bodies without souls?
Yes, corpses. Any physical body in which there is a life force, in which spirits are embodied, has soul.
What is the tarot, Scandinavian runes, the Book of All is Light literature, and can we use it all?
The subjects, objects named by you belong to the systems of knowledge of different peoples, or rather not even the peoples themselves, but their priests. Tarot, runes, letters, these are all symbols of those concepts that are encrypted in them. They were created to teach the older priests of the younger. That is, they are some symbols of the secret priestly language. They were naturally different in each nation. And even then further in time, when the cults which gave birth to these systems of knowledge began to be replaced by Christianity, by other more modern systems of beliefs, those priests and mystics, who later used these systems, put their meaning in the ancient symbols. And it is not a fact that it coincided with their original ancient meaning. You can use everything if you know exactly what you are doing it for and what it brings you. There is no absolute prohibition here. It is a matter of each person's soul. There can be no absolute prohibitions here, because there is nothing bad in these systems of knowledge. They are just ancient systems of concepts. It is like, is it possible to read the myths of ancient Greece to a child? You can, you should even, I would say. There is nothing unnatural, nothing dark in these systems. These are absolutely adequate systems of ancient mystical symbolism, which described the real world. By the word real world, I also mean the spiritual world.
Is it possible to harm oneself by illiterate use of these structures?
You can harm yourself by illiterate use of anything. It is illiteracy, rather than use, that does the harm here. That is, to put it simply, if a person uses some material or spiritual object, subject, or doctrine incorrectly, he will definitely harm himself and others. A very simple example. Can someone be harmed by the teachings of Christ? Would you say no? Remember the fires of the Inquisition? What is that? That is precisely the misapplication of his teachings. It is not the teaching of Christ that harms, but the wrong understanding of it. Once again, Christ brought a light teaching, but even this teaching did not prevent people from turning it into flames of bonfires.
What is truth?
I will answer the question once again, as this question literally repeats the question of Pontius Pilate, which he asked Jesus Christ. He asked him, "What is truth?" As you remember, Christ answered nothing to that. This question cannot be answered in such a way that it becomes the truth for everyone. You are about to think that I am saying that the truth is different for everyone, and therefore you can do whatever you want. That's not true. In fact, there is only one truth. Truth is just a word written on paper, for you, those of you who have not yet known it. And when you know it, this question will lose its meaning, because you will know that the words truth, light, good, love, life are the names of one and the same energy, which created everything around and which gave birth to all of us.
What is Reiki, and can it be practiced?
What you call the word Reiki is the energy of 11 plasmoid civilizations, directed by their unification specifically to change the life processes in the cells of dense material civilizations. These 11 plasmoid civilizations include the civilizations of your Sun, Sirius, Arcturus, Betelgeuse. This association is similar to our MC, only it is all in the ethereal plane. Just like with tarot, Christianity, any teaching and practice, it should be applied knowing exactly what you are doing, for what purpose, and exactly following all the rules of the system you are in.
So there's nothing wrong with Reiki?
Proper use of Reiki and getting rid of the belief that it is a panacea for everything.
Is it the choice of the child's spirit when a mother tortures her own child to death? Is this the way of spirits to self-development and self-perfection? What is evil for?
Actually, this question is very simple. Evil, as the action of spirits in the world, is necessary for the manifestation of the freedom that is originally inherent in all spirits. That is, a mother torturing her own child. By this torture manifests her freedom of will not to be in the light, God, truth, but to be in its opposite. The right is originally given to all spirits because love, like light, can only be free. Before incarnation, a spirit is given a program of life, but it does not include death by the evil actions of other spirits. So the action of a murderer, in other words, cannot be justified by the fact that this program was created by the soul of the murdered in some way. It is really his personal evil. Why it happened exactly to the soul that was next to him at the moment of his immersion in the negative is certainly not an accident. This murdered soul also has to go through the lesson of forgiveness, of accepting what has already happened in the spiritual world. But it does not mean at all that such a program was created. For example, this is what happens with the souls of unborn children. They had a clear program of life, they thought it over for a long time, incarnated, but they were not even allowed to be born by those parents who were responsible for their birth. In this case, the program is simply interrupted, and the spirit goes again in line for incarnation. Another important aspect in this matter is that when a person dies a natural death, he dies according to his program. That is, he comes to the spiritual world already ready for the transition. When he dies a violent death, it is always when he is not ready. That is why the MC is strongly against the death penalty in any of its manifestations. Because in this way you can bring even more harm to the spirit, who became an evil demon, killed many people. The motive of revenge in these cases is inadmissible, as revenge for the murder committed will not lead the spirits of the killer to realization. It will lead to the entry into the spiritual world unprepared spirits and its greater degradation, which does not meet the common goal of evolution of all spirits of the entire spiritual world. Therefore, murder is always evil, it is always against the program, and it cannot be justified by anything, not even by choice. That is, we cannot say that if a person killed someone, it means that this was the program, and the killer fulfilled it. In such a case, there is no one to judge, but the one who created the program must be judged.
What is lithotherapy, and what energy is in stones?
Crystals and stones are objects composed of certain molecules, which naturally emit certain types of energies. Speaking in MS terminology, these are energies of the first level, i.e. electromagnetic vibrations of one or another frequency, affecting electromagnetic fields of physical bodies of humanoids. They can activate or suppress this or that process in cells. On what lithotherapy is based. Some crystals and stones have the so-called memory of the crystal lattice. These are special properties of stones and crystals that allow a person or a humanoid having directed his life force into this object to charge this life force with this or that thought form, which will further influence the auras of other people and humanoids. Not only stones but also crystals, even salt and sugar, for example, have this ability. They have the ability to charge, i.e. to absorb the charges of the life force that comes from people and their emotional outbursts.
What energy do the stones themselves carry? That is, can stones be massaged or applied, or can they treat organs?
The stones themselves possess energy, according to the terminology of the MS of the first, second, and third levels, like all substances. But they mainly emanate energy of the first level, i.e., they are electromagnetic fields of one or another frequency. They can influence the electromagnetic fields of the organs of the physical body and either activate or inhibit certain metabolic processes. They have syntheses of various substances. In fact, lithotherapy is one of the subspecies of physiotherapy, i.e., treatment by nature.
So it all works? It all works?
Yes, your people are well aware of the effect that is observed in people who suffer from rheumatism attacks, for example, from lying on hot stones, or from covering themselves with sand, clay, mud, and other forms of material energies that act both through substances that penetrate through the skin and no less through heat, which we consider to be the same electromagnetic radiation, one of the first-level energies of these substances. And even the same minerals, the same belemnite, for example, has its own energy, its own substance, which at the chemical level acts as a substitute for many of the minerals that are sold. And at the energetic level, since it is very ancient, lived in the atmosphere of that pre-flood Earth, and gained energy and substances there, it activates the human energy system.
What does the extraterrestrial intelligence think about the church and corruption in this structure? How does it affect ordinary people who are not ready to move beyond the church?
Another person's sin cannot affect the sincerity of another person, who, through it, receives the action of the egregore built before him many centuries ago. Corruption in the sphere of church, politics, economy, and other spheres in the society is inevitable, because your society itself is based on the propaganda of consumption. This propaganda does not bypass the church. It is made up of those people of your society, in which you all are. The personal sin of that priest, to whom a person comes to receive grace through him through the sacrament, can in no way affect the power of this grace, since God is able to manifest through any matter, through any person, even through an animal, and naturally, he can manifest through any egregore. The main thing here is the sincerity of the one who comes, and his full trust not in the church as an institution, but in Jesus Christ as a person, his love for him. This is what opens access to the energies of the egregore.
For what purpose is the second coming of Christ planned?
The second coming of Christ is not planned to reward the good and destroy the evil. Any war, any battle brings only new problems and expenses, which is not in the MC in general, and especially in Jesus Christ as one of its main inspirers. The purpose of the second coming of Jesus Christ in the very physical body in which he was killed here last time will be that when the earth enters the MC, Christ will personally come to take it there.
That is, until the earth is ready to enter the MC, no second coming of Christ is out of the question?
From representatives of Burkhad, who directly communicated with Christ in his space on planet Burkhad, came the following information. Jesus Christ is aware of everything that is happening on earth, and he decided to make his second coming as an act of joining the MC, as it will be a sign to the whole MC that what he experienced on earth in his first incarnation was not in vain. And when he will appear here with representatives of Tumsaut, Burkhad, and other representatives of the MC, according to the information of Burkhadians, the first thing he will say is that I personally came to join you to the MC, where you will become 117 civilization, and now we will be together with you, and I can live on earth as freely as I lived on Burkhad, and how long I have waited for this moment.
Christ is alive?
Yes, of course, not only is the Spirit alive, but he is alive in the very body that was crucified, buried, and resurrected.
How does the egregore he built affect Christ now?
Christ influences him. He supports it with his energy, with his spirit. He built it together with Burkhadians, directing them here, giving them direct instructions to build Christian egregore, just for the fulfillment of the center of all Christian life, which you call the sacrament of Eucharist. And it really changes at this moment. Not the chemical and physical characteristics of the bread and wine, but the energetic component that becomes indistinguishable from the energetic component of the blood and body of that Christ who is on the Berchad. All this is done in order to change exactly the physical characteristics of your body, to suppress your animal genetic nature that prevents the spirit from manifesting itself in all its manifestations.
Thank you, Midugaskas. Thank you, Lishioni.
Goodbye. Thank you for your attention.